Hey everyone, here's Thomas once again, responding to Ozzy's CDA's or Mr. Collins' new video in which he responded to my earlier video which I posted yesterday. In my last video I quoted some Quranic verses and pointed out that the misquotation is widely spread in the Quran as well, and unlike the Bible or other scriptures, the Quran had a bigger problem to solve, as the so-called author of the Quran is Allah, the God of Islam, where its only recipient is Muhammad, his so-called last messenger. Mr. Collins went in his video trying to point out that there is so-called science of Quran, in which one part of Quran explains other part of the Quran, meaning you have similar verses or incidents or stories mentioned in one surah may be repeated in other verses with more details, with more emphasized, or more expanded upon. Literally speaking, he was telling us that Allah had used different words or details style in order to expand a single incident, for example, in the Quran. I'm afraid, Mr. Collins, this was not what I was pointing out. I was talking about a particular incident which happened only once in history, and like you said about the dawn of the dead style stories mentioned in the Matthew, these incidents already took place long time ago. So there is no way that God may change his words in order to describe the same incident. In the case of the Matthew, we can still assume that he was inhuman, so he can make or he could make any mistake, but the God is perfect in Islam. So if the incident is already happened in the past, and if Allah is telling us directly, then there should be and there must be no changing in the word or change in the detail. That's human. You said Allah mentioned creation of Adam in two versions while he wanted to give more details in it. Is that what you said? However, you forgot that Allah is mentioning a story of past. He was the creator of Adam in first place, and he knew very well that what he did. Even in our society, if you keep changing your accounts, even with the minor changes, people will not believe you. Hence, you want to believe that Allah had absolutely no problem with his reputation. You said an interesting thing, that Allah sent an angel to get some mud from earth. Where is this story in the Quran? Forget the Hadith for a second, as we are talking about an incident of the Quran, not from Hadith. Again, with the case of Allah describing his orders to Adam and Eve, in one version he said eat beautiful or bountiful things, but yet in another version he gave them full permission to eat whatever they like. You have no problem with it. Well, these are two totally different things. In one, you have to assume that there are things in heaven which are not bountiful or beautiful enough to eat, so Allah had to warn them especially. I cannot assume Allah will say anything without thinking in the Quran, yet in other verses he corrected himself, or that no, you can eat anything, meaning everything in the heaven is good. There are two different versions of this story, either you like it or not. It has nothing to do with expanding upon or describing it further. It's a clear-cut error and confusion on part of the author or scribes who wrote down these things. You went on and said that Noah was perhaps telling these things on two different occasions, yet you have also no proof to justify your claims. You acknowledge that these are two very similar accounts, but because there is no historical background is given, so you assume it was maybe two different accounts or two different times. Well, with all due respect, Mr. Collins, Noah was mentioned by Allah in these verses. So it's Allah who is telling us Noah's words, and not Noah is speaking with us. In both verses, Noah was mentioned as someone who was sent by Allah with his message. Yet the accounts are different. Even if I accept that you are right, does not Allah knew that he already warned the people with dreadful day? And Allah should have think that I should use dreadful instead of grievous day in my next message or next verses. Then you went on to comment on the story mentioned about the Moses. We know from Quran that Allah ordered the Moses to throw his stick only once when he was in duel with the Pharaoh's magician. You also know that words of these two verses are exactly the same, but in one Allah has to tell that I am Azizul Hakim, and in another he said I'm Rabbil Alameen. You could have said that you don't know, but because Quran is from God, so you have to make some sense of it. Even there is no sense of these changes of words. It's a clear-cut example of misquotation in Quran, like many others. I think it's you, sir, who's actually comparing apple and oranges and not me. You brought up a couple of accounts from some Muslim apologists who think they have understood Quran better than all others. Where is this criteria of your theories mentioned in the Quran, and where did Allah inform the mankind to use it in order to understand Quran? If it's not in the Quran, then it's a man-made interpretation, and like many already exist in the world, it has no special value. There are many theories and you don't believe all of them that they are true. So what makes you so sure that this time what you are saying or telling us is the ultimate truth? You went on to say that the zombies of Matthew and beast of other or Dabatul Earth are two different stories. Correct, they are very different, but one thing is clear: both are pretty colorful and results of fictitious imagination of their authors. You are right to say that the story of zombies is absolute nonsense and bubble, and we should have courage to reject it. Similarly, we should have courage to think that such animals, which was described in great details by Ibn Khatir, and when I was reading, I was thinking that somebody was holding a video camera and taking all of these great details which was mentioned in the tafsir of Ibn Khatir. It was wonderful. I mean, it's like somebody was thinking something, imagining something, and then writing it down. It is just a character of fictitious story and should be rejected. God does not need such monster animals to speak with people. He never did when he sent thousands and thousands of prophets previously, and he had absolutely no problem whenever he wanted to come to communicate with the people. Yet you want to believe that in the future God need to send an animal to speak with the men. And what will this beast will do? He will speak with the people and deliver the message of God to them. Now the question is, when I was listening to your response, there was one thing came in my mind when you said that it will going to happen on the Day of Judgment. Now we know that Muslims believe that Jesus will descend before the Day of Judgment too. So will it happen before Jesus come or after his arrival? If you say he will, this monster beast will appear before Jesus, then what is the use of Jesus to come, as the animal will deliver the message of God anyway? No use of Jesus to come back. But if you say no, he will come after the Jesus, then it means that Allah knew that Jesus will fail in his mission, and God need to send this animal in order to finish or to deliver the final verdict. Mr. Collins, no matter how you look, this story is absurd, and you should have courage to reject it. But if you say, well, no, because it's in the Quran, so I cannot, then I think it's not fair. When you have a courage to say that the stories mentioned in other scriptures are ludicrous or absurd and they don't make sense, then I or other people assume about yourself that you are a fair person and you have courage to reject similar absurd stories wherever they mention, either in the Quran or in Bible or in Torah. By the way, that your assertion that this beast will appear on the Day of Judgment has no basis in the Quran, according to my poor knowledge of Quran. So if you think no, I'm wrong, then I would like to see from you, if you kindly tell me where this special statement which you made that it's this beast will appear on the Day of Judgment has been made in the Quran. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope I was not very harsh with you. I'm just a straightforward guy like you, sir. So like I said, thank you very much for listening, and peace be with you all.